Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze Joao Felix's key role in Portugal's dominant 6-1 win over Switzerland. So in today's video, first we're going to focus on Portugal's shape, then we'll shift to Joao Felix's impact, and lastly we'll focus on the brief first half minor issue that they encountered with Switzerland's system. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, first we'll focus on their shapes, and Portugal started in a 4-2-3-1, whereas Switzerland were playing in more of a 3-1-4-2. They had the wing backs pushing forward to provide the width. They had Xhaka sitting ahead of the back three, and then they had the shuttlers pushing forward to help out Embolo and Shaqiri up front. Portugal's 4-2-3-1 featured an attacking trio behind Goncalo Ramos that was interchangeable, and we witnessed Bernardo Silva, Bruno, and Joao Felix swap positions throughout that game. There were times where Bernardo Silva dropped off a bit deeper into the midfield zone to get on the ball, and that made up a midfield trio, and then you had Joao Felix and Bruno who could tuck in towards those midfield zones and overload the center of the pitch while allowing Raphael Guerreiro and Dalot time to push forward to provide the width, but also peg back the Switzerland wingbacks. So for example, there were times where we witnessed Bruno and Bernardo swapping positions, and that would see Bruno moving in towards a central position between the lines, and Xhaka would have to pick him up. There were times where we witnessed Joao Felix pushing in towards a more central position and drifting laterally into that zone, and that would give Raphael Guerreiro the license to push forward, or he would drop off in towards his own half, attempting to drag away markers, but also receiving the ball and creating an avenue for Raphael Guerreiro to push forward as well. If he wasn't in those central areas, he was hugging the touchline, and then that would create an avenue for Raphael Guerreiro to make underlapping runs in towards that zone beyond the wingback and pull away Akanji. There were occasions where Portugal's build-up saw William dropping in between the two center backs, and that would push the wingbacks forward, and there you'd see Otavio in that midfield zone, but at times Bernardo Silva was also dropping in towards that midfield zone, attempting to create triangles to bypass the Switzerland midfield. In terms of Joao Felix's impact, a lot of it had to do with his combination with Goncalo Ramos, but he was able to impact the game in various ways. From the opening stages of the game, you witnessed him play a pass in towards Bruno, and unfortunately for Portugal, Bruno's first touch was poor and that halted the attack. But even when you look to the opening goal, it stems from a simple throw from Guerreiro. You witness Joao Felix being closed by 4 Switzerland players. Only 3 of them step, but they don't step tightly, and that allows him to pick a pass in towards Goncalo Ramos running across the center back. The center back doesn't get tight, perhaps because he's worried about Bernardo Silva's forward movement and he wants to potentially cut off the pullback, but that gives Goncalo Ramos enough time to let the ball roll on towards his left foot, and from a tight angle he fires a superb effort beyond the keeper. And then to complete Goncalo Ramos's hat trick, he ended up receiving the ball in between the lines in transition following a loose Bernardo Silva touch, and he slided the ball in towards the striker, breaking in towards right half space, and from that position he was capable of breaking free in towards the box and clipping the ball over the goalkeeper. The other key aspect to Joao Felix's impact was the varied movement amongst himself and Raphael Guerreiro. There were 2 key instances where you witnessed him on the touchline looking to receive the ball, and whether he was going towards goal, that's where you'd see Raphael Guerreiro making an underlapping run to pull away Akanji, and from there it allowed him to get the 1v1 with Fernandes to look forward and create for his teammates. And then even in the build-up to Raphael Guerreiro's goal, you witnessed Joao Felix dragging away the wingback. He plays the ball into the path of Otavio, and now focus on the movement of Joao Felix and Raphael Guerreiro. As that play develops, you witness Joao Felix receiving the ball back, and he ends up cutting across his marker and sliding the ball into the path of Goncalo Ramos, and Raphael Guerreiro is making an unmarked underlapping run in towards the final third. That ultimately results in Joao Felix playing the ball in towards the striker. The center backs don't get tight, and now there's a 2v1 down that left half space zone, and the striker slides the ball into the path of Raphael Guerreiro, who receives the ball in this position, thus resulting in him taking a touch that allows him to fire an effort beyond the keeper. And then the final threat that Joao Felix presented to the Switzerland backline was his willingness to drop deeper in towards his own half to pick up the ball. From there, he would force one of the shuttlers to step towards him as he would create an overload in that central area. And what you ended up witnessing was that when he received the ball in that zone, whether it be him searching for the ball or simply Portugal looking to break, Joao Felix displayed his ability to carry the ball beyond challenges, help progress the play similar to Bernardo Silva, and and then look to create or place his teammates into legitimate goal scoring positions. In this example, you witness Joao Felix receiving the ball in his own third, and as he carries the ball towards Xhaka, you can see two Portuguese players breaking forward. He easily steps across Xhaka with his touch, and from here he looks to play the ball in towards Bernardo Silva, and now Bernardo Silva could break forward. However, Bernardo looks to play the ball back in towards Joao Felix and allow him to carry the ball in towards the halfway circle, and here you can see him looking to play the ball over the top, and he gets a bit lucky because his pass was intended for Bruno, but it falls into the path of Goncalo Ramos and allows Ramos to take the touch across the center back, and he gets a bit lucky as well. And from here, Ramos could fire a low effort on goal, but it's a bit tame at the keeper. And in this example, you witness him dropping off in towards his own third. He drags away a midfield shuttler, and as he carries the ball towards his right, he attracts another Switzerland player towards him. It's Freuler stepping to help his midfield shuttler close down Joao Felix, and you could see Joao Felix carrying the ball towards four Switzerland players, but he bypasses all of them and carries the ball towards the Switzerland half with Raphael Guerreiro and Goncalo Ramos ahead of him. He sees that the passing option is cut off, so he continues to carry the ball forward towards the final third. He drags a marker towards him, and from there, that's where he squares the ball towards his teammate to help Portugal progress the play. And then if we briefly look at Portugal from a defensive aspect, the only real issue that they encountered was down their own left-hand side, because when you look how they were aiming to press, you could have the front three closing down the center backs, Bernardo Silva tracking Xhaka, and then you have 2v2 in that midfield zone that would ask the fullbacks to push forward to close down the wingbacks, and then Ruben Diaz and Pepe were dealing with Shaqiri and Embolo. There were situations when Switzerland were looking to play the ball towards their right that Bruno dropped off to deal with Freuler so William could cover the center of the pitch, but there were also situations where Vargas was receiving the ball and Bruno had to shift across, and in those situations, if Dalot didn't step, that's where you would see William shifting across to help close down that threat, or due to the fact that Shaqiri was dropping off deeper into the midfield zone, and whenever the center back didn't follow him, William was prepared to step in to block off that passing option. However, when you focus on the issue that Portugal encountered, it was simply down to the fact that if the shuttlers were pushing forward and Otavio didn't track that movement, they were occupying Raphael Guerreiro. Joao Felix was often caught higher up the pitch, and that resulted in diagonal balls that placed Fernandes free down that right channel, forcing Raphael Guerreiro to shoot out late to close him down. And from there, when you look at Switzerland's best moments in that opening half from open play, it simply stemmed from the diagonal ball out towards Fernandes, and he was looking to create for his teammates. However, he was unsuccessful in both attempts. So as you can see, the combination between Goncalo Ramos and Joao Felix presented several issues for the Swiss backline, but it was the 23-year-old's all-round impact in the final third, along with some poor defending that served as a catalyst to Portugal's success.